Hi, welcome to this little series in sort of my tips and tricks for approaching small waters here in France, but in reality anywhere, any tricky small water. Very little I do here is any different to what I ever did on a syndicate or a club water, back in England. So hopefully this will help you in plenty of different ways, not just on your French trips, but also back at home in your regular fishing. Obviously, I get asked the same questions most Saturdays when people arrive. The same sort of things. People are worried about the same things, or don't have a huge amount of confidence in the same things. And there's always a general theme running through each weekend, that people need some reassurance or some confidence in certain things. A lot of the time, those things aren't actually as important as people think, and the things that I believe are important and the mistakes that I see get made are far more important, but are ignored. So that's why I wanted to do these quick videos to hopefully help you and answer not just the guys that are coming to my lakes, to Lac Solis and Lac de Coron, not only to answer their questions ahead of time, but they're relevant to anywhere you go. Um, the first thing worth mentioning is my opinions are not necessarily in line with a lot of the current thinking and the loudly spoken, or the popular companies or people that are on YouTube and all the rest of it. Things like one rig for all, one lead setup for each situation, and one rig will do everything. That's that sort of thing. I totally disagree with, and I actually, I think it's bullshit. Um, but what it does do is it adds it allows people to think that it's always simple. I'd only need this type of rig. I only need this type of setup, and it will happen. But the reality of carp fishing anywhere in the world, whether I'm on a huge public water or a 3 acre really tricky little shallow pit like this one at Lac Solis, um, every situation demands, if you want to get it spot on, every situation demands you adapting to it. Whether that be rigs, the way you present, the bait that you're using, the way you prepare that bait, how you get that bait in the water, how you it had to even how you set up with your rods up, or fishing over weed, or whatever it may be. There is no one size fits all approach to catching carp, in my opinion, and that comes from my personal experience of fishing over the last sort of 20 years, longer than that, nearly 30 years is how old I'm getting. But also what I've seen for the last 7 years at the fisheries about what works and what doesn't. And there's always a common theme. Getting a bit of a bead on because the sun's come out, so apologies for the glare off my balding old head. My experience is that the guys that do their own thing, that have their own confidence, that fish regularly and have their own style, but know how to adapt to the situation in front of them, are the ones that are successful. So I just wanted to talk about in this video how the week starts, what happens from the moment you get out of that van, the mistakes I see on that point. So this first chapter is about that, that first afternoon and night, Saturday afternoon and night at most lakes. So obviously for most of you, especially you guys up north, you've all had a really long day to get down to most fisheries. You've probably spent as much time driving on the UK side as you have on the French side. So you're all knackered, but you're all excited. A lot of you haven't slept the night before with the excitement as well. Everyone's often a little bit nervous, that they don't want to blank and they don't want to crap swim and all the rest of it. And as a result, people sort of go into autopilot and just run into the whole swim situation, or they've pre-agreed to swims, and just start fishing without without doing their due diligence, basically. So most of the time, obviously, I walk, like as a fishery manager, I walk around with you guys. But often, you know, sometimes guys like to walk around on their own, and we have a beer and a chat, and then people wander off. The amount of times that people haven't got their glasses, we'll be walking around their Polaroids. So we'll be walking around, I'll spot some bubblers or some cloudy water or some oil plinking off bait that's obviously being disturbed by fish activity. I point it out and they go, oh, I can't see it. You know, my glasses are buried in the bottom of the van, or, you know, my hat's buried in the bottom of the van and stuff like that. So it sounds basic, but it's almost every week that happens. So if you want to get the week off to the best start possible, you need to be taking in and creating that information from the start. And Polaroids for me are the number one tool in my armory. If someone said to me, you have to use a center pin and a swan shot for a week, and you can have your Polaroids, or you can use all your gear but you can't have Polaroids, I'd reckon I'd catch more using the old school tactic, because I can see what I'm fishing for, and I can put all those pieces together over the course of the week. I can see the bubbles, the shadows, the clouds coming up off the bottom. I can understand that they're fishing in clay, or they're feeding in clay or on dark silt, or by the color of the cloud, but I can only pick that up with my glasses on. So make sure you've got your glasses ready and easy to get a hold of, so that when we go for a wander, or you go for a wander after a beer, you can see those signs from the off. So we've had that walk round. We've spotted, because we often will spot a lot on a Saturday. They're well aware they're not being fished for those 3-4 hours while I'm preparing the lake for the following week. So there's always great opportunity on a Saturday afternoon when you guys arrive at every lake. The most activity probably you'll see all week will be in that first hour or two, because they know they're not being fished for, and they'll feed where they want to feed, how they want to feed. But that is the most valuable information you can get. So the general consensus there would be, you've picked your swim, so that's all happened. Get out the leading rod or the bait boat, the huge great bait boat for a small tricky little water with the GPS on it and all the rest of it, and you're slamming car doors because you've driven the gear around to the swim, and you're shouting to your mate across the thing, oh, did you see that one? All the things that happen virtually every week. They are all alarm signals to the fish that, oh shit, we're under pressure again, they're back. We're being fished for. It's not as safe as it has been. So instantly they're on guard. When you start adding marker floats, spods, bait boats, and all the rest of it to the general noise and racket of people setting up, it's just too obvious. They're too aware of what's going on, and that often will put the fishing back 2 or 3 days, and your session really doesn't get off to a great start because you've put them on guard for the first 24 to 48 hours. So instead of doing what I know a lot of fishery owners or videos and YouTubers and all this brands and stuff say, find the perfect spot, 28 spoms, 32 spoms of this exact mix, and the world's your oyster, you're going to bag up. I don't agree, and I don't believe it. That just, it's not reality. The reality is that if you can quietly and subtly and smoothly get a rig out there to those feeding fish as quietly as possible and with as little disturbance as possible, then you have the best chance of getting your week off to a flyer, and not having that monkey on your back of a week-long blank and wasted money and everything that people do get nervous about. So that is my top tip for once the swim is settled. Don't slam the doors, keep everything as quiet as possible, don't ring the alarm. Instead of thrashing it to a foam, get a couple of simple rigs done that you're confident in. Maybe have one flick out there with a bare lead just to make sure you're not landing in a weed bed. Hopefully you can see a weed bed in the height of summer anyway, but just have maybe 1-2 flicks maximum with a light 1.5-2 ounce lead, just to make sure you're getting a drop in that area, and that's it. Clip your rig on, a little bag or a stringer, the way that you're most comfortable with it, a rig that suits the situation. There isn't one rig that suits all. A pop-up rig is not the best presentation in every situation. A bottom bait is not the best presentation in every situation. A stiff hook link, a supple hook link, a coated hook link, they all have their places for different reasons, and that will become apparent when you get more confident and you learn the lake. But to start with, for example, here today I'm at Solace for a few hours while I do these videos and keep one of my guests company. You know, I'm only here for a few hours, but I've approached it exactly the same as I would have done if I was here for a week. And that is, found some fish, watched them for an hour, saw that they had a clear route where the bubbling was coming to and from, can see, because this is a fairly shallow lake and the weeds to the surface, can see where the clumps of weed are, waited for them to move, put 2 bags out there, little bags, with simple slip D rigs, which are perfect for this sort of situation. I know what the bottom's like, and if you ask the fishery manager, so you ask me, you're in a certain swim, you say, Nick, before you go, what's the bottom like in my swim? I'm in inflow or whatever it may be, and I can very easily say, 20 yards out, all the way around this corner is slate, it's rock hard, it's clean apart from the weed that you can see in clumps. As you go further out, you'll start reaching silt, etc., etc. So you don't need to interrogate it to death and spook everything off before getting a couple of rigs out and just chilling out. There's no rush to throw bivvies up and crash around making noise. Just flick a couple of rods out, put your bed chair up and take it in. Chill out, take a breather after a long journey, watch the water, move around a little bit, have a little look at swim from different angles, go onto the back bank if you can, have a look across so you've got different light angles looking at the same bit of water, and really start to piece it together. The amount of times you'll nick what I call mugging a fish on that Saturday afternoon, it's amazing how often it happens. Even this week alone, the 2 guys at Coron, we've been closed for a while. They listened to my advice about, because there was so much bubbling going on, keep it as quiet as possible and build the swim as you get confidence and you start getting bites. We're only on Monday afternoon, and they've had one of them had 4 fish last night. I think they're on 10 fish now at least between them, and they're building the bait, and the bites are coming more regularly. But from the off, it was just 1 rod for one guy, 2 rods for another, well spread out, not bowstring tight lines, very gentle. One of them used a bait boat to drop it really quietly. One of them just sort of flicked them out with light leads, but worked for both of them. And has allowed them straight away to get on the fish, have confidence in their rigs, in their bait, in their presentation, and more importantly, the spot. They know the spot's presentable. They know that's where the fish want to feed, because that's why we're fishing for them there. They know their bait works because they've had bites straight away. They know the rigs are working because they haven't lost any or got snagged or blah, blah, blah. And that is how you can then start building your swim. That confidence and that ability to know that a spot is rocking and a rig works, and everything, you can chill out, you can trust what you do, that is worth another day on the bank with regard to your confidence and your understanding of the lake. So that is my top tips. Chill out when you get here, have your Polaroids ready, don't rush, have a really good look, whether it be on your own or with a fishery manager or bailiff or whoever's there. Learn what you can. Most of what you learn will be with your eyes rather than what we can tell you. Go in quietly, super quietly, get everyone else to be as quiet as they can. Try not to let them thrash the place to pieces either. Try and mug that first fish, or 2 or 3 even, on that first afternoon, and you can start really confidently building your week from there.